Yeah, so it's time we have that conversation about how Black Americans are expected to respect other cultures and ethnicities, but very rarely do we get that same respect in return. Hey everyone. So today I'm going to talk about Black history, but I'm not necessarily going to get into the whole Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, MLK discourse. This is a completely different subject that I just have to get off my chest and I have to talk about. So this is a completely different type of show. I encourage you guys to go get your water of choice, get your wine, your tea, sit back and relax because I got some steam to let off. I came across this post on Instagram and it was someone who is from Africa. I do not remember what country she's from, but she said Happy Black History Month, and then she said we're going to celebrate Black History Month with Black dishes. And she proceeded to post a bunch of different African food. And we love African food. We love all food of the diaspora, right? But none of the dishes were Black American. So this caused an uproar in the comments. You had everyone divided in the comments. So many people felt like that was a disrespectful post. A lot of people feel like Africans are included in Black History Month and they are owners of Black History Month. And others feel like African Americans, Black people specifically, the holiday is for us. And so I'm one of those people. I like to research heavily and I like to read all the commentary before I make a decision on anything. Before I do a podcast or before I, make a video about a certain topic, I do a lot of extensive research. And the reason I'm making this video is because I'm highly offended by the people of the diaspora. I'm sorry. I'm just a little upset right now. So excuse the stuttering, but I'm highly offended by the people of the diaspora, specifically people in Africa. And usually I don't like to refer to people as people in Africa. I like to know what their country is. But there was this guy who was debating with me in the comments, and he didn't state what country he was from. But I was highly offended by his comments. From his comments, I could very well tell that not only does he not respect the Black community, he does not acknowledge it as a whole. He does not understand that the Black community, we have our own community, our own ethnicity, our own traditions, which are very different from anyone else. So someone made the initial comment, I wish people would just respect Black American culture and quit trying to make it a group project when it's not. We love you, but we have our own culture and national traditions that we've built and fought for. It's not a free-for-all. I wish other members of the diaspora would give our culture, ethnicity, country, and people the same respect we give theirs. A few people commenting saying they agree, and then here you have someone saying, list them. That list them comment was very condescending because once again, people are somehow brainwashed to believe that Black culture doesn't exist and that we're just making this up. So let me break it down for y'all. Black people are trendsetters. You see Black culture everywhere around you. Every time you open the TikTok app, it's our music. Soul food, hip hop, stand-up comedy, R&B, jazz, even rock and roll started with Black Americans. AAVE is one of the most influential and imitated forms of Black culture. Our fashion, our hairstyles, everything is often imitated and duplicated, but it started with us. Our fashion sense, hairstyles, music choices, and comedic spirit influenced the entire world. Every time you open the TikTok app, what type of music do you hear? I'll wait. Okay, moving along. So here's where the debate begins. So an African guy, he comments, he says, and where did all of that come from? You want to have one for AAs, but when it's intertwined with African culture, you're trying to cut us out of something that we are a part of. And Delilah I don't know Delilah, but she educated him, and she said, we haven't been intertwined in 300 years. Anything we've created and accomplished in that time frame doesn't belong to you. And the same could be said for us and your culture. A big part of the reason many Black Americans focus in on ancient African history is because that's the last time we were one with y'all. We care, love, and welcome you to celebrate what we've created with us, but you must first remember and respect that we're the ones who created and accomplished what is ours, not yours. So she talking to me and she says, I hope you don't remind me responding for you. Because y'all, I wasn't even online. I wasn't on Instagram for like 2 days. And I'm like, no, girl, go right ahead. You summed it up perfectly. I could not have said it better. And it's very rarely that I see people with the same mindset as me and people who are able to formulate a sentence the way that she just did. The way that she broke it down, chef's kiss. I couldn't have said it better. But of course, he's continuing with his All Lives Matter rant. He says, that's very sad coming from another Black person. It's true that you don't owe us anything, but when we were all viewed as Black under the white man's eye, why are we separating ourselves even more? And just because we haven't intertwined doesn't take away from the fact that AA culture stems from African culture. Okay, pause. We gotta pause. We gotta pause right here. This is the type of disrespect that I'm talking about right here. People do not think enough of us to allow us to claim our own culture and our own traditions. Everyone is always trying to tell us how they invented us, how they made us, how they helped us, or how they somehow have an attachment to our culture. While I respect the African community, Black American culture in the last 300-400 years has become one in its own. I won't discredit Africa's influence on the entire world because Africa did influence the entire world. Africa is the motherland. But what I also won't allow is for Black American culture to be continually disrespected. Very few of our dishes are inspired by any African culture. A lot of our food is actually slave food. Y'all don't want to talk about that though. Y'all don't want to talk about how the slaves were given scraps, and that's what inspired a lot of the Black American food today. See, if I'm going to talk about the good of Black culture, please believe I'm going to talk about the bad. But even when I'm talking about the bad things in Black American culture, please respect that this is our story. Single-handedly our story. Nobody else went through what our ancestors went through. So I'm going to get back to the comments. Because this gentleman continued to pretend that he didn't understand what Delilah and I were saying, she educated him even more. She said over 80% of Black people in America are Black Americans. The percentage that isn't includes Africans and members of the diaspora. Black isn't just a race, it's a culture and ethnicity here. The easiest way to explain is in how you'd be described in an organic setting. They'd be like, I know this African girl, or your respective country, girl. The people who will likely call you Black aren't Black Americans or are rarely around us. Being nice, which isn't the same a kind, speaking racially can't tell the difference, or being backhanded. Look up the effects of immigration had on the civil rights movement. Many times today, even when we see Black people pushing against Black American interests or given leadership positions, they're disproportionately Black immigrants because they're seen as agreeable and docile towards whites in a way that Black Americans just aren't towards them. Dear, you're not being belittled. If someone came to another country and demand that their culture be celebrated during a time of celebration for another group that literally built the country and created almost everything good about that country, anyone would understand that they were being disrespectful and entitled. Disrespecting boundaries and entitlement is a huge problem that Black Americans deal with, not just from white people, but people of color, the diaspora, and Africans. If you want to celebrate with us, learn about our culture and celebrate it. I bet you've used anywhere from 5 to 105 Black Americans' inventions and benefited from at least one law that was passed because of us. So I just piggybacked off what she said. I said, Delilah explained everything perfectly, and you still pretend not to understand. You understand what she's saying, but you're intentionally stepping boundaries, intentionally overlooking Black culture because that's what the rest of the population does. Nigerian people would never be in the comments claiming ownership of Ghanaian culture or any South African culture. Y'all don't claim Dominican, Jamaican, Puerto Rican, or any other culture. Hell, y'all barely claim us. You don't claim us, but yet you want to take ownership and claim rights to our culture? That's strange, and whether you realize it or not, your bias is showing. Your lack of respect for us is showing. This is giving All Lives Matter. I think we need to start having more conversations about how Black Americans are the only ones told to respect other people's culture, but we don't get the same courtesy in return. We paved the way for a lot of people to be comfortable here in America. So please respect our differences while acknowledging our similarities. So I just want to pause right here. I want to pause from reading the comments, and I want to give y'all a few examples of what I mean. Y'all know that song, Make Me Sweat? You know, Tyler, that singer Tyler. She's South African, very beautiful girl. I love her song. I just love everything about her essence and her aura. But there was a debate about her using the word colored. Disclaimer, I'm not really a person who gets uptight about specific words being used. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm multicultural. I do come from a Black American family, but my dad's side of the family is also Haitian. So I don't know, maybe I can tend to be a little bit more understanding when it comes to, I don't know. I don't get upset over words, but I'm rambling. Let me get to the point. She uses the word colored when describing herself, and that upset a lot of Black people. As y'all know, colored is considered a derogatory term over here in America, but South Africans, that's what they refer to mixed people as in their country. So me, myself, when I heard her say that, it didn't draw any red flags for me. But when I saw people in the comments stating, oh, that's her culture, y'all need to respect her culture, ooh, that's when that's when my little radar went off. That's when I got upset. Because why is it that as Black Americans, we are always told to respect other people's culture? It's literally shoved down our throat, but nobody respects ours. It's like our culture doesn't even exist in some people's eyes. See, Tyler, it's okay for her to use that word colored where she's from, but when you come to a new country and you're promoting music to our people, because our people are the ones who helped you go viral on TikTok. Our people in America are the ones who are showing up to your shows and your concerts. You should probably research the culture that you're performing for and that you're trying to appeal to so that you don't offend them. That's just my take on it. When I was growing up, I was always told, don't do this in front of Asian people. It's disrespectful. Don't do this in front of African people. It's considered disrespectful. I've never heard of don't do this in front of Black people is disrespectful. So, yeah, that's what I want to say about that. But also, let's talk about the diaspora. Y'all know this diaspora word is being used heavily nowadays. But let's talk about it. So you have people, you have Dominican people who I consider are a part of the diaspora, Jamaican, Puerto Rican. All of those people are technically a part of the diaspora because their culture is heavily influenced by Africa. Dominicans are a mix of African, Taino, and I believe Spaniard. Jamaicans, African. But somehow they are allowed to practice their own traditions and it's respected. But when it comes to Black Americans, it seems everybody wants to take ownership over our culture and things that we created. You got to ask yourself, why is that? Is it a lack of knowledge or is it a lack of respect? It's a lack of respect. So anyway, I asked this guy, I say, if you're so bent out of shape over claiming rights to Black American culture, why don't you do the same when it comes to Jamaicans, Haitians, everyone of the Caribbean? Dominicans, Puerto Ricans. He didn't have anything to say. I specifically said, do not reply back to me unless you can answer that. And what did he do? He still replied back to me, and his response was, so what holidays do they have just for Black Americans? Wow. Does Juneteenth ring a bell? What about Martin Luther King Day? And the entire topic at hand is Black History Month. We have the month of February. Like, what? Y'all, that's when I get frustrated, because out of everything that I said to him, that was his only response. He said, what's a Black holiday? The blatant disrespect. So I just made this topic today because I really just want to talk about Black American culture needs to be respected. And another thing, stop calling everything that Black people do ghetto. You know, growing up, I was always told, like, talking a certain way, and not even by my mom. I'm talking about, like, going to school, everything, you're always told to talk a certain way. And then AAVE was always considered like ghetto or Ebonics or whatever word they wanted to give it. I didn't even really start hearing the term AAVE until I became grown. And I think it's important to understand that every culture has their own slang, their own terminology. But for some reason, Black people were the only people who are ridiculed for our slang and the way that we communicate with each other. It's time that we embrace things for what it is. We are not the same as any other culture. We are our own culture. And it's okay to respect that. Also, let's think about Black names for a second. You ever notice how all the Black names are considered ghetto, but then all the foreign names are considered exotic? I am not a white American, so why should my mother have to give me a typical European or white name? And you notice how the teachers in the schools, they act like they can't pronounce our name, but they can pronounce Arnold Schwarzenegger with no problem. All of those Dutch and Irish last names that are hard to say, they say those with no problem. But for some reason, when it comes to pronouncing Laniqua or Shaniqua, it's a problem. My name is Sherelle. You know how many white people have butchered my name? Such a simple name. I get called Cherie, Sheree, Cheryl, Sherelle. Sometimes I just don't even respond. Like, if you mess my name up that bad, I won't even respond. If you get it close, then I'll acknowledge you. But when my name is Sherelle and then you start calling me Sherelle-Yonda, Sherelle, like, what? You adding extra letters trying to be petty now. You feel me? But yes, I want to end this with Black American culture. Although it may not be identified in your textbooks or your Google searches or whatever it is that you use to research Black Americans, understand that we have our own ethnicity, our own culture, and our own traditions that need to be respected. Boundaries need to be respected. People from the diaspora try to come over here and tell us we don't know where we're from. Baby, I know where I'm from. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Stop playing with me. Stop playing. Like, at the end of the day, we all were dropped off at different boat stops at the same time. Dominicans were dropped off in Dominican Republic, and Black Americans were dropped off in America. That's where we're from. America is our country. We built this country. It's time that y'all respect that. And if it weren't for us, you wouldn't have the opportunities that you have over here. But shout out to all of the Africans and all of the people of the diaspora who actually respect Black culture, because I did see a few people in the comments saying, thank you for an easy landing. And I was cracking up when I saw that. It was this guy. He was like, yeah, I respect Black culture because y'all paved the way for a lot of things. So thank you for the easy landing. For sure. I respect that. Keep it real. We made it so that y'all lives could be easier when you do come over here to America. And yet we're still dealing with the systemic racism that a lot of other people don't have to deal with. Because once again, at the end of the day, culturally, we're different. That's all the time I have today. Y'all make sure y'all comment down below, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about Black History Month. That was what the topic was at first, and then it kind of just went off into something else. If you notice, I specifically didn't comment on Black History Month because I want to leave that up to y'all. I want to let the viewers decide, what do you think about Black History Month? Is it specifically for Black Americans, or is it for everyone of the diaspora? I really want to hear your thoughts and opinions about that. I have my own thoughts and opinions, but I don't feel as strongly about Black History Month as I do about the in general respect of Black culture.